Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today, I am so excited for Aleasha Bahr to be joining me and for us to be talking about sales, but not sales in the way that you might be thinking about. Aleasha is a sales strategist, a speaker, a best-selling author, and she's founder of the Black Sheep Sales Method. And she gave me the coolest pair of socks that say this on it, as well as her brand new book by the same name, which is exciting. Her method empowers business owners to effortlessly convert up to 80% of their leads without pressure, without pitching, or pretending to be someone that they're not. She breaks a lot of the myths around mainstream sales, and she helps business owners sell without the cringe. Aleasha, welcome.
Thank you, Krista. I'm so excited to be here talking to you.
I know we've kind of known each other forever, and we've known of each other for even longer because, no surprise, Annie P. Ruggles connected us because she connects me with everybody who's on this podcast. But we were at an event together recently and sitting and chatting, and I was thinking, how have I not had you on my podcast yet? And so here we are.
I'm so excited to finally, it's just a long time coming.
All right. So the first thing I want to dive into, let's talk about some of the myths of selling some of the mainstream sales strategies. So there is a lot of really cringy stuff out there when it comes to sales. So what are some of the things that jump out to you and that you have a different perspective on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big ones are, so I have a theory that sales was for a long time just aggressive men selling to aggressive men. And so they really liked that strategy. However, the world has evolved. And if you sell in that way to a woman or a man who's not aggressive, they're going to be turned off by it. And those people also don't feel comfortable selling that way. So it's necessary to evolve in order to be effective in sales. And so some of the things that a lot of people just accept as fact in sales are that it is a numbers game. And what they mean usually when they say it's a numbers game is like, you just need to contact a lot of people and one of them needs what you're selling eventually. Also going in line with that strategy is get excited to hear every no, because it just means you're closer to a yes, which is, I mean, we have to acknowledge it's a great sales pitch for rejection. Okay. Like it's hard to sell getting rejected, but they did it. And it's also false. Like rejection builds resilience, this whole concept, right? So numbers game and rejection builds resilience. And the thing is sales isn't a numbers game when you don't treat people like numbers. Would you rather contact 100 people and get one of them to move forward, or have 3 people you're really excited about and 2 of them move forward because you were thoughtful and genuinely interested in working with them? And then, yes, rejection does build resilience. It's true. It just also comes with a lot of negative side effects, like a hit to your confidence, your self-esteem, a lot of self-doubt, like, oh my God, is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with nobody wants my stuff? Like, and it's just that you're talking to people in a way that they're just nobody likes being talked to like they're just a number. I mean, you can feel the difference. So yes, there are situations, someone was asking me this today, where cold calling a bunch of people or cold outreaching a bunch of people has its place. And that's if you're like an enormous company who's just going for volume. However, if you're like a service provider who has relationships with their clients, long-term relationships, you will get so many nightmare clients with that strategy. And you'll also have a really negative impact on your reputation that you'll hurt your sales more than you will help them by going for sheer volume. Most people, if you need like 10, 20, 30 clients a year to be really happy. You do not need to hit big numbers in your outreach.
So much gold in what you just said, but my favorite, and I wrote this down. This is a quotable. Sales is not a numbers game if you don't treat people like numbers. That right there is some brilliant stuff and so true. And there is nothing more annoying to me. I will tell all of you right now, if you listen, I know a lot of you are going to be super mad at me for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Stop using Navigator on LinkedIn to get people's email addresses and spamming the ever loving hell out of them.
Oh my
Like
God.
nothing makes me crazier when I get the random connection from someone and they start sending me messages. It's not a good strategy. It's a terrible strategy. It's super annoying.
It's so
Like on the
invasive.
receiving end of it, I can't stand it. And all the companies that do it, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. You just reach out to enough people and you're going to get some people to say yes. Well, I will A, never be that person, but B, like just find another strategy.
Well, also it's like, oh, you got somebody to say yes to have a sales conversation with you. Cool. So you can waste your time talking to all these people who just had a pulse and said yes to having a sales conversation. That is not a qualified prospect. That is a really quick way to waste a lot of time and again get very discouraged. Is something wrong with my offers or something wrong with me? I suck at this. Da 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 da. And it's because you just aren't being intentional at all. There has to be more criteria than a pulse and willing to meet.
Yeah, completely. All right. So let's talk about this a little bit and break it down. So if somebody's like, but that's the only way I can get leads. How else can I get leads? What can I do? How can I do it if I don't follow some of that advice that I've heard? What are some of the things that you recommend and how you recommend approaching sales differently?
Yeah. So, I mean, with lead generation, it is a little bit of a different animal because it just depends on your personality. There are so many ways to generate leads. You could do it through networking. Some people hate that. Don't do anything you hate. I'm just going to say that. Okay. So, yes, all these things work for people. It depends on what you enjoy. So, you might enjoy a live masterclass where you workshop with people, or you might enjoy executing some kind of challenge, or you might enjoy small talk in your DMs. That is a slow, painful death for me. I'm not doing that.
Me too.
Yeah, I hate it so much. Like small talk in general, I'm an introvert. So it's really about like figuring out what feels good to you. And then also your message has to be so dialed in. So I always come from a place of adding value. A lot of people will reach out. I'm sure you've gotten these messages where they're like, hey, I just want to let you know there's all this stuff wrong with your website. So would you like to have a sales call about it? And it's like, no, I don't want to. You just told me how wrong I am, not feeling like talking to you. Instead, it's like, let somebody know all the things they're doing right. And there could be some opportunities here. Like, if anything, you really want to come from a place of like, I really like what you're doing. Is there anything I can do to add value? Would you consider, XYZ? Would that be helpful for you? That's really like my personal approach. I was always like what you call in my corporate days, I sold digital marketing. I was an idea seller. So I would see that they had an event coming up and I'd be like, oh, there's all these cool ideas that we can do. We could have this contest online for this prize that would lead to a deeper relationship with the winner and da 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 da. And I would just genuinely get so excited about it. So it kind of just really I know authenticity is such a wasted word, but whatever is going to make you feel like it's in alignment with you is what is going to work the best for getting leads.
Yeah, I agree fully. There's so much gold in what you just shared there. And to me, I feel the same way. I know some people genuinely love to cold DM people and pick up the phone and do cold calls to people. I know people who like for them, they actually love it. To me, that sounds like the definition of torture. But to
Yeah,
each their own. Like you, I'm a bit of an introvert. So
totally. And that's another myth is that introverts aren't good at sales, but I actually have found that introverts are even better at sales because they're a pattern interrupt. And they naturally come with some skills that extroverts can learn, but aren't as natural to them. So, like curiosity and empathy come really naturally to an introvert. And a lot of people get confused that introvert means that you're shy. It's really about the energy. Like if you get drained by people, which I get very drained by people, I like them. It's not that I don't like them, it's that I'm exhausted. I only have so much gas in the tank, right? And extroverts actually get energy from people, which sounds like a superpower. And I know COVID was a real rough time for all the extroverts in the world. They were just like really low energy. Um, but my theory is that introverts are drained by it because they are so in tune with the other person's experience that they're talking to. Like, are they interested? Are they not? Oh, did that offend them? Oh, I see them pulling back. And all that stuff is pretty exhausting and also super beneficial for a sales conversation because extroverts are just going to steamroll right through whatever signals are coming from the other person.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I find a lot of introverts are also good listeners.
Yeah.
And I think part of sales calls, right, is about listening more so than talking, but I don't always see that happen, or at least not on the receiving end. I don't always see that happening. Tell us about a good sales call.
Definitely listening. So curiosity is such a huge foundation of my sales philosophy and empathy. So a lot of times people will just not acknowledge that someone shared like their heart on a platter. They like get on a sales call and they're like, well, everything in my, whatever's on fire. And they're like, right. So how long have you been doing that? And it's like, oh my God, they just shared how terrible everything. Like, let's have a moment and acknowledge like that sucks. I'm really sorry that you're going through that. And that's super frustrating and discouraging. And it almost makes you feel like giving up. And I'm so glad you didn't. And I'm so glad instead you're talking to me. And a lot of times this is why those fires happen. Does that resonate with you? And offering a little bit of insight. That's what I call pitch weaving. But asking a question afterwards is so important. So a lot of people will like go through an entire sales conversation. And the only question that they ask outside of like the ones in the discovery section is like, sounds good or makes sense. And have you ever had somebody acknowledge that what you said made sense multiple times in a conversation, only to get to the end of the conversation and they say something that makes it very clear that what you said did not make sense? Has that happened to you?
Oh gosh, I've had, yes, nightmare sales calls. I've done pure sales call teardowns on the podcast before because some of them have been so painful.
Oh no, really? Why? Cuz the other person, or cuz you were just getting your feet under you, or
Oh, no. Yeah, the other person, the person selling, not me leading the sales call, me
oh,
being the person being sold to.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're just so like I would say that one of the biggest issues with mainstream sales is that the only goal is to get a yes. The only goal is to get a credit card. And so everything in the conversation is designed to get a yes. And as a result, you get less yeses.
Mm-hmm.
So like the underlying philosophy of black sheep sales is if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there's no selling involved, which means you have to leave space for it not to be a fit. And that's okay. The only goal is not getting someone's credit card. It's just understanding if this person has a challenge that you can solve. And if that is the case, communicating it and confirming. That's the part about the questions that I don't think I wrapped up. Like, you want to ask, like, does that sound different from what you've done before to solve this? Does that sound more effective? Like, people just don't ask when they explain what they do. And then they get to the end of the conversation and they're like, well, let me think about it. And they're like, I have no idea what happened. And it's like, well, you never asked. You never asked. Does that sound good? Like, does that sound like something that you want or no?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, in so many words. So, being able to really collaboratively explore their challenge together, and if your solution is the best fit for that challenge. And if it is, let's roll. And if it's not, that's fine. Let me show you this resource over here or introduce you to this person over there. I uncovered this actually because I was always a natural at sales. And whenever someone is a natural at sales, so other people do this that I'm talking about, this fitting thing, right? And letting people know when they're not a fit. And they're naturals at sales. So when people ask somebody who's like that, well, what do you do? They say, oh, well, I don't really sell. And everyone's like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that advice? It's not advice. And the reason they say that is that they're actively letting someone know, hey, actually, you don't need the highest tier option with all the bells and whistles. You'll be covered with this. Or actually, you don't need this yet. You need this other thing first and then come back. And it's like magnetic for prospects because nobody ever does that. And they're not doing it in this is a sales tactic way. They're doing it in like, this is genuinely in the other person's best interest. And they feel that. And nobody's put it into words. Basically, there are people who do this, but they've never had any reason to like define it and in a way that is repeatable for other people. So that's what I've spent the last 5 years doing is like, defining it in a way that people that don't naturally do that can implement.
Yeah, I love that. And I have your book. So for those of you watching it on video, got Black Sheep Sales up, which is fantastic. So tell us a little bit. You were talking a little bit about your method, but tell us a little bit about what you cover in the book and what you recommend to help people who aren't naturals at it.
Yeah. So the people who aren't naturals at sales, usually they are better than they realize. That means when someone thinks they're bad at sales, it's because they are bad at manipulating somebody or pushing somebody. So with the right structure that's just based on curiosity and understanding, they thrive because they're naturally like that anyway, usually. Like they really do just want to understand what's going on. And they get all tripped up and like, but am I saying the right thing? And is this person wanting to? And it's like, it's not, you can even say at the beginning of a conversation, like, hey, I'm kind of awkward in sales conversations, but I want to find out if I can help you. So I'm here. And it just like takes the pressure off. And in the book, the Black Sheep Sales mission is kind of really close to my heart for multiple reasons. The evolution of sales and how it has to happen for people to be effective. Like I really want buyers and sellers to have a better experience. An alternative to all of the aggressive mainstream bullshit that's out there. Cause that's like what most people see. And a lot of people are like, man, is this really it? Like there just has to be something else. So I love like offering another option. And then also the Black Sheep message in general, because although I look like a suburban mom, from the outside. And I have used that to my benefit many times throughout my life. I am very much an odd duck on the inside, a black sheep, as a woman, as a wife, as a mom, as a business. I mean, I think maybe not as a business owner in sales though. And a lot of people have this feeling where they've just been told that they have to act a certain way or be a certain way. And it doesn't feel in alignment with them and they don't get the results that other people get with that way. Like you want to join a country club and you love having your friends there and playing tennis 3 times a week. And it's just like, you can't imagine a better life. I love that for you. I would hate that. Okay. And that's okay that I would hate that. So like being this permission for people to really show a different way of doing things, because if you look back at life, the only time there's been progress is when there was a disruptor or a black sheep who's like, I have an idea and it's real different from what everyone's doing. And everyone's like, no, sit down, shut up. You sound dumb. You sound scary. You sound dangerous. They get, and some people are brave enough to say, I just can't. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to talk anyway and get this out there. And there's a lot of people who do get quiet. And there's so much genius lost in the world because of that. And so there's this other layer to the Black Sheep Sales method that it's like, please, like the only 2 guidelines for anything in life is, does what I'm doing feel in alignment and is it getting results? And if the answer to both of those are yes, literally don't listen to anyone else, not your favorite guru, not your family member you look up to, not your idol, nobody. Like, and alternatively, if someone's telling you have to do this, but it's not getting you results or it's getting you results and it feels horrible, do something different.
Yeah, I agree fully. I completely agree. And I've shared this on the podcast before, but I had for the longest time people tell me that I was terrible at sales, like other coaches or mentors, because I don't follow a lot of the scripts and the methods and the ways that people say. And then they would be perplexed because they'd say, how do you approach sales? And I'm like, well, I just have a conversation with somebody and I find out if I can help them. And if it is, like, we just kind of naturally land on the fact that we're working together. And if it's not, I usually send them a couple recommendations or connect them with somebody, and that's it. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. But I keep everything really informal. And I've been hammered, no, you have to have a sales process and you have to this and you have to have that. And what I always kind of then confuses them was, well, how many people say yes? And I'm like, about 80%. Really, the only people who don't say yes are people who aren't a good fit. Like, both of us agree wholeheartedly. Like, it's very rare that I leave a call like, ooh, I really wanted to work with that person, and they say no. And so it would perplex them. Like, how is that possible when you don't have this script and this method and this? And it took me a long time to accept that's just who I am and how I approach things. And I don't have to change it. Because anytime I would try to do something in more of the way that I was told I should be doing it early on, I would feel awkward and I would trip over my words. And it would be like a nightmare conversation for me. And when I just show up as me and just chat and have a conversation, and if it leads to working together, cool. And if it doesn't, cool. Totally different.
So, Krista, it sounds like you're a natural at sales and you're naturally fitting people. Like, you know how to ask questions to uncover if this person has the requirements, the drive, the needs, the things and the assets in place that need to be there. All those things that identify, oh, yes, you're a fit. You're in a spot where the work we do together would have really incredible results. And the confidence you have when you share that, knowing they really are a fit, is contagious.
Yeah. And that right there, I think, is the key of what you just said. And that's what I love so much about your method, and why I was so excited to have you talk about it here, is the fit piece. And circling back to where you started with, most people just try to get a yes. And I know when people are in tough places, I know this year was challenging for a lot of people from a sales perspective and a growth perspective. And sometimes it's like, I'll just say yes to anything. I just need anybody to say yes. And I think you just hurt yourself so much in the long run when you do that. Like, it has to be a fit. So how do you help people figure out the fit piece of things?
Yeah. So whenever I work with anyone, we do this deep dive where I ask them a ton of questions. And one of the questions that really helps uncover that piece specifically is, what patterns do you see in prospects who say yes? What patterns do you see in prospects who say no? What patterns do you see in clients who get great results? And what patterns do you see in clients who do not get great results? And usually, a lot of people have a better idea of who is a fit rather than who is not. So you almost want to create like an anti-audience. So like, this is, and it makes the right audience more attracted to you, because you can say, hey, as long as you're not this, that, or the other. And they're like, I'm not, I know who she's talking about. And that's not me, you know? So like, for me, it's like, hey, I'm not going to create an Excel spreadsheet that I hold you accountable for that requires like a certain number of outreach. I'm never going to do that. And if that's what you're looking for, it's not me. And I'm, and the people who don't want that are like, thank God. Right? So by being clear about that, you actually better attract the right people.
Okay, that is some serious brilliance right there. I love the anti-audience. All of you listening, if you do not have this, go create an anti-audience, because I know what I am doing tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, we all have them, and it's that same place where there's like not any judgment. If that's what you want, is an Excel spreadsheet with like like you're a numbers person, right? You got to have the formulas, and then and blah blah blah. Go find the right person for you. Like, you deserve that. You want to join a country club where you guys like all, hang out and drink champagne and like gossip and stuff. Like, I love that for you. Like, there's no judgment to it. It's just not me.
Seamsies. All right. So I want to get into letting people know where they can find you and everything, but I do have one question first. And so, how about the person who's actually really pretty good at sales, who finds that they get great results, but they're listening and thinking, wonder if I could get better conversions, or I wonder if there's something that I could do to be even better at sales? What tips do you have for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of times those people are scared to hand off their sales because no one will do it as good as them and their revenue will decrease. So they need another thing that I do is I pull everything out of your head and create a sales strategy that someone else can implement. And then I recruit and hire and train that person. So a lot of times, like, business owners will hire a salesperson and think of them as a sales strategist. And those are two different things. A salesperson can take a sales strategy and run with it. And a sales strategist is the one who's creating it. So if you just give it to a salesperson, like, oh, figure it out, they're not going to, and it's going to be really frustrating. If you want to, like, improve your own results and you're not at the point where you want to bring on a salesperson, one of the things that makes a huge difference is a lot of times there are these things that we're repetitively explaining in our sales conversations that are like educational pieces, basically, like giving somebody context for your industry, like some misconceptions that they might think about you or what you do or what people in your industry do or what kind of results they should get or something. And so sending that sort of pre-call education out ahead of time will make your conversation, your sales cycle happen much faster. So there won't be as much of a delay. So, for example, this one is one I talk about a lot because it was like, it just made such a huge difference. A book marketing coach. A lot of people come on the calls thinking they were going to make money with book sales. Like, no, that's not how you make money with a book. They were also just pissed that they spent all this money and time and energy publishing it and people didn't read it. But like, you can't just publish a book and have people read it. You have to market it. So we would explain these things ahead of time. Like, I am so sorry to tell you, like, and I'm excited for all this effort and energy and time that you have put into this. And this is how you can make the most of it. And no, it's not book sales. There's all these other wonderful things we can do. And so it just it shaved off like 20 minutes of our sales conversation. Because if you are selling and educating at the same time, it's too much. You can't do those both. People will be like, this is a lot for me to process. Let me go think about it and let you know. And instead, they can know this stuff ahead of time and come to the conversation ready to talk about their situation specifically and what you guys can do together.
More brilliance. I love it. And with that, tell people about you. Tell them what you have going on. Tell them where they can find you. Tell us all the things.
Yeah. So my book, Black Sheep Sales, is going to be publicly available in January. So if that's for you or for your sales team, if you want an approach that converts more and also just represents your brand better and feels better for everybody, definitely purchase that. I also have a podcast, Sales is Not a Dirty Word, and lots of solo episodes where I break down all the little pieces of the sales process. The first one to listen to that's really a good spot is Selling Like a Natural.
I love it. Fantastic. And her podcast is great. If you love this show, you will love hers. So definitely go over and check that out and tell people where they can find you online, your website, and all the things.
Yeah, so it's AleashaBahr.com, and I'm most active on LinkedIn. So hit me up there. Let's exchange the messages. Would love to meet people anyone attracted to the Black Sheep sales method is usually my people.
All right. So I ask all guests this question, and I always cannot wait to hear the answer, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So tell me, in your business, how do you work smarter, not harder, and keep things lean?
Well, Krista, that's just always an ever evolving attempt, you know? The best, really, like, getting an EA to help me with a lot of things is been the only thing that has really allowed me to work smarter. Basically delegating, hiring a social media agency, like delegating is how I can work a little smarter.
Fantastic. I love it. I mean, getting things off of our plate so we can do what we do best. Why not? That is the way to approach it.
Yeah.
All right. So as we're getting ready to wrap up here, any final tips for people to increase conversions, get better results from sales, and really do it in that more natural way without all the cringe?
I mean, I think the final tip I would say, a lot of people feel so weird whenever they say the price, the investment. Call it an investment, never a price. And mainstream sales suggests that you are dead silent afterwards. And they suggest that because a lot of times people have this like verbal diarrhea thing that happens where they're like, and blah, 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 and they try to like justify the price because they feel so uncomfortable about it. And a better way to do that is to just say, is that investment realistic for you right now? So it continues that collaborative conversation.
I love that. Is that investment realistic for you right now? That's brilliant. Aleasha, I feel like we could talk all day long. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom and all the brilliance that you shared on today's episode. For all of you listening, if you loved this episode, please share it so more people could hear about Aleasha and get connected with her work. I know I took a lot of value out of this. I hope you did as well. And I'll see you again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you have not yet taken our scalability assessment, I invite you to head to leanoutmethod.com/assessment and take our interactive assessment that's going to help you look at how simple, how sustainable, and how scalable your business currently is. It includes personalized recommendations of where to focus next to get your time back, to increase your impact, increase your profits, and ultimately step into your rich, fulfilled life. And finally, we'd love to see you inside our signature program, Simplify to Scale. You can head to leanoutmethod.com/ops to find all of the details on how we can help you uplevel your operations and get out of the day-to-day of your business.